Assembly. Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, it's National I Love to Write Day. What's the best thing about writing?
Tony Kornheiser quitting it to do television. That's the best thing.
Well, you know what? Yeah. When is the last time you wrote a significant amount? Last time?
Aside from the lead-ins on this show, it's probably been close to 20 years.
No, it hasn't.
People ask me, yes, it has. People ask me all the time, do I miss writing? And I say I miss having written, because writing's hard.
That's the answer.
Hard.
Miss having written. Very good. Very well said.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Cam Newton returns, the football team beats the Bucs, and the Lions almost win. But we begin today with 4 blowout wins from yesterday's NFL slate. The Cowboys beat the Falcons 43-3. The Bills beat the Jets 45-17. The Patriots beat the Browns 45-7. And the Chiefs beat the Raiders 41-14. And that is a combined score of 174-41. And that is a massacre. Wilbon, which of these victories was most significant?
Tony, I think Kansas City, and I'll circle back to it. I told you yesterday at some point that I thought Buffalo and Dallas were the easy calls. Those were the lock-solid bets, and I don't even bet. But in my football pool, which I guess is like betting, those were double-digit winners for me. Automatically click it in, check the box, move on. And I thought, look, the Patriots, I'm not going to try to sort of undermine, their victory yesterday, because that was pretty impressive. But I thought Kansas City, given the doubt that it crept in about Kansas City, a new skepticism, if you will, having to go and do this at the Raiders. They're doing this at a blood rival. I think that I'm going to take the Chiefs, putting points on the board. Mahomes looking like something closer to Patrick Mahomes than we'd seen him look in recent weeks for the most part. I know they've won 4 out of 5 or whatever it was. It is now, but I'm going to go with Kansas City even over New England for most significant of those wins.
It's interesting you talk about the skepticism that has crept in over Kansas City, mostly led by you and your comment that they're a dynasty of one. So my initial reaction was to go with Kansas City because of the troubles they have had over the course of this season. And because they go on the road in division, they beat a rival, and they end up in first place. But, and there's always a but, I'm going to move away from Kansas City for this particular reason. Because that game was close midway through the third quarter. That was, I think, 17-14 midway through the third quarter. Then it got to 24-14. If Deshaun Jackson doesn't fumble on that long pass play, maybe they go in a couple of plays, and then it's 24-21. So to me, that's a late blowout, and that influenced me to go for New England. New England is building a significant body of work lately, and Mac Jones is by far the best rookie quarterback. New England has now, he was 19-23, Mike, with 3 touchdowns and no picks. And I understand it was a home game for New England, but the week before, Cleveland had looked good against Cincinnati. They didn't look good in this particular game. New England has won 4 in a row, and they have won 5 out of 6, I believe. The average score in the 4 in a row is 38-13. So to me, that was the most impressive win. And like you, I expected a bounce back from Dallas. I expected a bounce back from Buffalo. I did.
Tony, the only pushback I have is that Cleveland's a dog again. They're a dog again. Apparently. They are. I mean, I know they had an impressive win last week, but they just, you can't count on them. The Cleveland and the Bengals, they're still in the same pot. They're soup you don't want any part of. So that I guess by saying that, I'm sort of downgrading New England a little tiny bit, maybe, 5%. But, Kansas City, look, they've been a pinata lately. I mean, a lot of people like me have been beating up on them. And so I thought they answered bit yesterday.
And that's fair. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate Buffalo or Dallas, because I think they're playoff teams.
Yeah, we saw that coming.
But when you beat the Jets, the Jets stink. They hired Salah, who is a defensive coordinator, and this is what they've given up in the last 4 games. 54, 31, 45, 45. And I believe the Mike White era is over. I believe that's over at the moment.
Was an era? Cam Newton, Tone, he said it.
Yeah.
He's back. The Panthers quarterback provided touchdowns on his first 2 plays for the Panthers in a win over an Arizona Cardinals team that was missing Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. P.J. Walker actually handled most of the snaps for Carolina. Went 22 for 29, 169 yards. That's pretty good. So then, Tony, do you credit Cam Newton with this win?
I would love to, but I can't and I won't. I won't. I will credit the Carolina defense for getting and harassing Colt McCoy very early and helping the team build a big lead. And let me emphasize again, you cannot expect Arizona to win 2 games in a row without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. You just can't do it, okay? Cam Newton, though, I will confess to you, watching that on Red Zone, watching what I thought was live when Cam Newton went out there for the first play in a year, and he ran to the right-hand side, and he got into the end zone. That was thrilling for me. And when he ran to the camera, and time after time he screamed, "I'm back!" I love that. That was thrilling. And the next time he went out there, he threw that little short pass. And I just thought to myself, look, this is not the Cam Newton of Auburn. It's not the Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers when he started. We don't even know if he can throw the ball down the field anymore. But the fact that he participated and seemed to get joy from it made me happy, Mike. I've never thought of Cam Newton as an underdog, and I do now.
Yeah, Tony, he had some joy, and he expressed it, and I suspect that feeling permeated the locker room and that sideline and whatever meeting room time he had leading up to the game. I didn't have to watch Red Zone because that game took place right here, right there, behind me a little bit. And so that was on local TV, and I was watching it live because I wanted to see when would Cam Newton get in the game. Oh my God, he got in earlier than I thought. Let me confess. I root for the Cardinals. I really do. I root for them. Even though, my dear friend Larry Fitzgerald no longer on that team, I still root for the Cardinals. I spent time here. They've had a magical first, 8 out of 9 weeks. Now they've lost 2 out of 3. And Tony, I've been waiting for something like this. I'm not going to credit Carolina entirely. I look at Arizona, and I've been going, when are they going to slip up? When are they going to seem like Charlie Brown and they hit the banana peel and they're going on their keister, as you like to say? So it's great for Cam Newton. I don't think that Cam Newton that means he's the Cam Newton of old. I don't know what it means.
He's not.
But like you, I found myself happy, smiling and texting and dialing people saying, "That's right. This is great. Cam Newton has had this game and this moment. This is cool."
So he's not as good as P.J. Walker today, but he might be by Sunday when I believe Carolina hosts Washington. And he gets a shot at Ron Rivera, who did not want him in Washington at all. And I told you the other day, if you can get Christian McCaffrey healthy, and look at the game he had, 95 yards running, 61 yards receiving, and Cam Newton runs the ball, and they can run the clock, maybe they can win 20-14 a couple of games. Maybe they can. We move on.
Team.
The biggest upset on yesterday's card was the Washington football team beating the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers 29-19. Washington had a great late drive to ice that game, and they intercepted Tom Brady twice. They also lost last year's Rookie of the Year, Chase Young, to a torn ACL. Wilbon, does this loss change how you see Tampa Bay?
Tony, maybe a little. I didn't see Tampa Bay as a great team. You and I talked yesterday about the lack, and this morning on your podcast, about the lack of a great team. And Tony, I'm going to tell you something. What Tampa Bay did last year, winning 8 in a row, 4 after the bye week, and then 4 in plus, what they did last year was a great thing. It was a great feat, athletic feat. I didn't think they were a great team last year. And so I don't think they're a great team this year. Where's their defense that was so ballyhooed and overstated, because they're not much right now? And the Washington football team, even on a day where they have their best win, I don't know, it could be 3 or 4 years, they lose perhaps, arguably, their best player. They lose him to this injury. And I'm not around that team anymore. I don't care about the Washington football team, even though I've lived there a chunk of the time. But I did feel bad for Chase Young, and I felt bad for the people invested in him as a great talent. I know people come back from this injury now. This is not like when my hero Gale Sayers suffered it in the mid-'60s and you couldn't come back from it. I hope he comes back. But Tampa, they may win again, but it doesn't mean they're a great team.
So let's look at that, because we're going to be in concurrence on this. Last year they came out of the bye And they won that game, and they won 8 straight. 4 regular season and 4 playoff games, including the Super Bowl. This year they come out of the bye and they lose, and they're 0-2 in their last 2 games. So to answer the question, do I think differently about them? My answer is yes and no. Last year, they were great in December. It's only November. You don't have to be great now because there's no great teams out there. But they've lost 2 in a row. Brady's been intercepted 4 times in those games. He looks a little bit mortal, and maybe they have gone down 1 peg. Now they're going to get Gronkowski back. They'll get Antonio Brown back. Their schedule coming up, it's not a killer. Giants, Colts, Falcons, Bills, Saints, Panthers, Jets. They should win 5 out of 7. But I'll tell you this, Mike. I would tell people to hold all pari-mutuel tickets. Don't go to the cashier's window yet on the Brady-Belichick bet, because Brady was a runaway last year. But the long game, Mike, it's beginning to look like Belichick could win the long game. Now, that was your bet with me.
That was my bet. So, I might have been a year too early. But it's looking a little sunnier right now.
Let's take a break. But coming up, the Lions have no longer lost every game. Should they be happy with a tie?
I guess the wins are not going to start rolling in as some people promised us. And did Oklahoma or Texas suffer the worst loss on Saturday?
The Tampa Bay thing, that late drive was 19 plays, Mike, and it doesn't end with a field goal where they can come back. It ends with a touchdown.
That was stunning to me.
19 plays, they held it.
Well, Tampa's defense...
Pardon the interruption. Presented by Bullet Bourbon, part of Happy Hour.
It's mail time. Adequate questions, incredible answers. Let me see what's first here in the box. Should the winless Lions be happy with a tie?
No. No, the Lions had multiple chances to win that game. Late in regulation and in overtime, they dropped interceptions. Pittsburgh had those chances too, but we're talking about the Lions. And by the way, that is the worst end of game, late game attempt at a field goal I think I've ever seen. Doink at least hits the crossbar. It's in the target. You're looking at it. It's right there. That kick was so pathetic. They did fall on this fumble, and so they did not lose the game. But no, Tony, they're so bad. They're so pitiful. This was even more Charlie Brown-like because it was within their reach, and they couldn't grab it and pull it in. No.
So let me give the good news. The good news is they will not set a record by going 0-17. The worst they will be is 0-16-1. And the bad news is having to watch that overtime was brutal. I'm on the red zone. That's the last game in the early window. The late games, nothing really much is happening. So you get a big dose of that. And when you watch the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger against the winless Lions, it's almost like torture. The field goal attempt was terrible.
It was awful.
They didn't gain hardly any yards in the overtime period. Jared Goff's numbers, if I have these correct, they're unbelievable. 11 yards passing in the first half. He finished regulation with 54 yards passing. Come on, man. What are we even doing out here? But you know what? You can't have that.
But it was slick, and it was wet, and it was awful. It's not like your boy who got traded out to L.A. where he plays in 72 and sunny every day.
No, and I'm still rooting for Dan Campbell, but I don't know. I don't know. Here's the next one. Who had the worst day on Saturday, Texas or Oklahoma?
Tony, I think Oklahoma, because Texas is irrelevant, and their irrelevance means, look, the score shocks you. It does. And I wasn't going to check in on that. Checking in on Kansas? Come on, with Texas. But Oklahoma, my man Caleb Williams, who I'm rooting for, and he, didn't have the kind of day you should have.
Nothing.
But let me just tell you this. Lincoln Riley, who's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer, stop yanking 18 and 19 and 20-year-old kids in and out of the lineup. He never should have benched Rattler to start with. He could have brought Caleb in and ushered him in more slowly. And you don't yank him in a one-score game. Lincoln Riley, stop. I'm tired of hearing the praise for him. All right? His team's out of it, and I ain't blaming my man Caleb Williams. I'm blaming the head coach for being a rash dope and pushing and pulling and yanking people in and out of the game. They got what they deserve because of the head coach.
The head coach who only produces Heisman winner after Heisman winner.
I don't care.
Let me tell you,
How they doing so far,
Mike.
most of them?
The worst day was the guy who persuaded the SEC to take Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's loss is bad, but it's not tragic. They can still win the Big 12, I believe, if they beat Oklahoma
They can still
State.
win,
They probably
yes.
won't make the playoffs, but maybe they can. The worst day by far was Texas because they lost at home to Kansas. Kansas, a team that had dropped 21 straight D1 games. A team that had never, and let me repeat, never beaten Texas in Austin, put 57 on Texas. Texas has now lost 5 games in a row for the first time in 600 years.
Irrelevant, like I said. They're irrelevant.
No, Kansas can't play. And they beat Texas.
Neither can
And
Texas, apparently.
I wonder about Steve Sarkisian. I wonder how long
that's
he
fair.
gets at Texas.
That's fair.
I wonder. Enough
You know
being
they're
there.
upset.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Russell Wilson blamed himself for the Seahawks' loss to the Packers. Does he deserve it?
You know who the Hook 'em Horns bunch think had the worst day. We know what they're thinking. How concerned should the Bucks be, Tony, about starting this new NBA season 6-8?
Yeah. Caleb Williams had a bad game. He's a true
I
freshman. Yeah, people. Happy 29th birthday, Trevor Story, the Rockies' all-star shortstop who spent much of his time in Colorado in the shadow of Nolan Arenado, had 24 homers and 75 RBI leading into his free agency. Story will join a free agent class of shortstops that includes big hitters and World Series winners Carlos Correa, Corey Seager, and Javi Baez. Shortstop has become a big-time hitting position with those four: the electric Fernando Tatis Jr., Trey Turner, Francisco Lindor, Xander Bogaerts, and Brandon Crawford. If only there was some assurance baseball will actually be played next year.
Tony, I'd probably be happy to take any of those shortstops in the Cub pinstripes. But if you ask me who I prefer, I want Javi Baez back. And I think he plays, talk about energy and how it affects a locker room, a dugout in this case, the ballpark, the club. Javi Baez. There's talk about him coming back. I hope that's real.
Happy anniversary, Kyler Murray. On this day last year, just a heartbeat or two after Buffalo had taken the lead with 34 seconds remaining, Murray sprinted to his left and uncorked a 50-yard Hail Mary that DeAndre Hopkins snatched out of the air among 3 Bills defenders. Murray's momentum carried him out of bounds after the throw, and he actually watched the catch on a video board at the opposite end of the stadium. Naturally, the play was dubbed the Hail Murray. If the Arizona Cardinals live up to their early pace this year and become a great team, this play will be described as their starting point.
I forgot, Tony, by the way, that Murray was a Lincoln Riley guy, so I got to walk
Yes,
that
he
back.
was.
But you know what? I want the Cardinals to rally. This is a great time to be a fan of sports in the Valley. The Suns have won 8 straight games now, longest winning streak of the NBA season. Time for the Cardinals to get it back, and we need Murray out there, and we don't know yet whether he's going to play on Sunday.
A melancholy trails to Sam Huff, the Hall of Fame linebacker, number 70 of the Giants in Washington, died over the weekend at 87. Huff was the first of the celebrity middle linebackers, a crew that included Chuck Bednarik, Ray Nitschke, and later Dick Butkus. "We made defense famous," Huff once said. Huff was the subject of an early sports documentary, The Violent World of Sam Huff, in which Huff was mic'd up in an actual game, allowing viewers to feel the physicality of an era where defenders had but one goal: the destruction of the ball carrier. After his playing career, Huff joined the radio booth in Washington with fellow Hall of Famer Sonny Jurgensen and broadcaster Frank Herzog. They worked together for over 30 years, and they were great.
Tony, they were great, and you and I had the great fortune and honor, really, of being around Sam Huff quite a bit. And, you know, the personalities, by the way, of Nitschke, Huff first, Nitschke, and Butkus, I mean, they were masters on the field. You could be afraid of them when you met them and first shook their hands. And they were so personable, such characters, and they did so much for pro football. But Sam Huff and Jurgensen together, you know, I mean, we lost Bobby Mitchell. I mean, part of that era of Washington football team play and glory. And Sonny Jurgensen, who I worked with for years, 13, 14 years on television in Washington, and you were around him too. I'm glad that we have Sonny. I'd like to be there today to just have Sonny tell us some Sam Huff stories, because you know there were some great ones. There's so many great ones that we didn't even know. But he was just such a player and such a guy to be around. I feel fortunate to have had that honor.
Me too. We're running out of show, and we go to the big finish. The Bucks lost to the Hawks. They're now 6-8. Is there cause for concern?
Yeah, Tony, they got to get Middleton back. They got to get some health and stay healthy. The East is too hard to get way behind right now. It really is. The Seahawks got shut out by the Packers, and the return of Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. You drawing any conclusions?
Russell Wilson was rusty. He missed a bunch of games. Rodgers seemed so up to be in the snow again in Green Bay. He wanted that game, and he got it. The U.S. men's soccer team beat Mexico 2-0. Is that a big deal?
Well, Pulisic scored off the bench, Tony, and the U.S. team is at Jamaica in Kingston tomorrow. Quick turnaround. The Detroit Tigers are signing Eduardo Rodriguez to a 5-year, $77 million deal. Is that significant?
Yeah, they also signed a catcher. That's where baseball begins, with a pitcher and a catcher. You need to do that. Last one, college hoops. Number 2, UCLA beat number 4, Villanova in overtime. Were you impressed?
Yes, Tony, I was. With the game itself, I don't want to start making declarations. It's really early in the college basketball season. Good to see that matchup, though.
Out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Now to get you set for Monday night, here's Susie Colbert and the Countdown Crew.
Richard Holland, shout out.
Hi, guys. Welcome to